welcome to Telly Talk. I'm Liv.
And I'm Ben.
And on this episode, you'll hear our carefully considered and not at all random thoughts on a show we like. There will be spoilers.
We're giving ourselves an age rating of 15 and above, but you're welcome to make up your own mind. Listener discretion is advised.
And if you're enjoying our podcast, please do rate, review and subscribe.
You can contact us on our socials. We're at TellyTalkPod on Blue Sky and Facebook, or you can email us at tellytalkpod@outlook.com.
So this episode, we are recapping Gavin and Stacey, Series 2, Episode 2. Do you want to read out the episode description?
I do. Smithy goes AWOL after learning he's to be a dad, but the boys find him. Will he do the right thing? Will he? Stacey is shocked to hear of Gwen's new domestic arrangements.
Oh, yes.
Domestic arrangements.
Now, this is quite a good episode. One of my favourites, so I'm excited to get started.
Spoilers for the ratings.
Yeah. Well, we pick up exactly where we left off at the end of the last episode. Smithy is shocked and then he's angry.
Oh, grrr.
He does not agree that everyone else should have found out before him. And Bryn is quick to remind him, no, I found out at the exact same time as you. How helpful. Thank you, Bryn. One of my best lines ever.
It was good. No, actually, I found out at the exact same time as you.
Yeah. Thanks for the comfort. Really helpful.
He's very annoyed at, Gavin and Stacey both knowing before him.
Even though Gavin only just found out, 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, bro, I found out in the women's loos with everyone else.
Yeah. While you were eating Gwen's lasagna.
Yeah, and we do get... Well, and everyone else's food.
I know.
It is a classic Smithy, tantrum, but I think it's reasonable.
Do you?
Well, that he's getting really upset. He's processing.
Yes.
Big, shocking news that I don't think he was hoping to hear.
I don't think it had even crossed his radar.
No, it's not welcome news, as he makes readily apparent.
Yes. And he does storm out.
But only after declaring that that night was shit.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, it wasn't that night.
That was rubbish. Yeah. And Nessa goes, I know.
But then they point out, everyone knows about them two disappearing off into the garden.
Well, it was very obvious. Their clothes were filthy.
I love the idea that you can only have a baby if it was good.
I know, yeah.
Classic. And that's how we go to credits, him storming off. Classic. Mm-hmm. And then we come back to a sort of pastiche, almost, of the starting the episode on a phone call. Because we come back from credits and it's Gavin trying to ring Smithy, but he's on voicemail because Smithy's not answering his phone.
No, he's gone AWOL, as the episode description clearly put.
It doesn't lie.
Well, we have Mick, Bryn and Gavin in the car driving around, and Bryn brings up and he says, this is virgin territory for me, and he's referring to doing a police-style chase hunt looking for Smithy. He's finding it all very exciting.
Yeah, and I love the sort of the nudge of virgin territory.
Yeah.
Everyone gets to have a bit of a wry look, but
yeah, because we're talking about babies, and that clearly implies intercourse.
It does.
And now Bryn is sort of almost outing himself here.
I suppose, yeah. And it sort of eventually the conversation turns to Lucy, Smithy's Lucy, and sort of answering a few questions that I think a few people have had, what's her surname and where does she live? Yeah. How old is she? And Gavin doesn't know her surname or where she lives. He's only met her twice. So she's as mysterious to him as she is to us.
Yeah, but they talk about her being in the Brownies. Now, the Brownies are scouts and guides, but they are aimed at 7 to 10-year-olds?
But she's a tawny owl or something.
I know,
so
well, that's what I was
leader.
going to say. They're talking about her being in the Brownies, and so you're led to believe, oh my gosh, she's really,
this is
really
extra
young.
problematic.
Yeah, very problematic. And then they drop in that she's one of the leaders, one of the tawny owls.
She's 18 next week. I saw you. That means she's 17.
Yeah.
Rob Brydon gets to do his sort of noise impersonation because he's doing the radio and going, breaker, breaker.
Yeah.
That was a flawless impersonation of an impersonation.
It was something.
But it carries on that fun thing of Bryn just not taking anything. I was about to say him not taking it seriously, but he's very taking it seriously.
He's loving it.
In a playful way, and it's fascinating.
He's living mindfully, isn't he? He is really there, really present, in the moment, enjoying every minute.
In a way that the average person, if they were doing it, would be taking the piss. But he is fully, authentically living the dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we cut to Pam and the girls having home drinking, which I suppose is a dream in its own way.
Yeah, well, as you say, they're talking about drinking and it's alcohol, and Nessa's wondering how much alcohol is in a Baileys. And Stacey says, well, it's mostly cream. And then I think in quite a brave move, Pam says, best stay clear, love. And she does.
Yeah, and all of the women have a different way of telling her that she's fat.
Yes.
Which is delightful. I wondered if that was of the time or whether it's just meant to be tasteful. I don't know.
I don't know, but Nessa takes it well and she goes to pop the kettle on to make a cup of tea instead.
Which gives everyone a chance to have a good old gossip.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. We get to hear a lot about Trevor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, he went to hell, didn't he, when he found out he was going to be a dad?
Yeah, because they're trying to sort of justify Smithy's behaviour, aren't they? Mick didn't react too well, and then we hear about Trevor, and oh my god, the orgies.
Oh, yeah, that's what you picked out, the orgies, the drugs, the robberies.
Yeah.
And Stacey's just like, what?
Yeah, and eventually Nessa returns, and they ask her about where she's going to be living. Because at the moment, she lives with a band, and of course she does.
She lives with The Distance.
Yeah.
Now, let's play a game.
Oh.
The Distance, real band or fake band?
Well, I've always thought fake band, but I'm beginning to think it's a real band. You're raising your eyebrows at me.
Oh. Well, The Distance is a real band, but not in this instance. I think it's a pure coincidence. There is not a real band that was formed from the remnants of Catatonia. So I was disappointed. I was really hoping it would turn out to be a real band.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry to kill any bubbles for anyone.
But she does include examples of real people, because the very next thing is that Richard and Judy's offered her their spare bedroom, and Judy hit the roof.
Yes. And she had a torrid affair with Richard, didn't she?
Yeah, yeah.
As she does with everyone.
With everyone, yeah.
I think she mentions Eddie Stobart and the lads again later in this episode, so that's fun.
Possibly, can't remember.
But we then cut back to the boys on the hunt for Smithy.
Yep.
On the Hunt for Smithy does sound like an album name.
Yeah.
Possibly by The Distance.
Yeah. Number one hit.
And they decide to go and see Smithy at the drive-thru.
As in Rudy.
Yeah, not Smithy. But, Bryn loves that they're both called Smithy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, do you know what? I actually call your brother Smithy.
Yes, yeah. And he's so whimsical about drive-thrus as well. Like, you can go and get a whole meal and not even leave your car. He is fascinated.
But I love that he starts to tell her about the issues that Smithy's having.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they're like, yeah, best not tell him. And he starts talking, so they just wind the window up and he goes, oh, don't mind me, blabbermouth here, as it closes on him.
Ignore me, I'm Mr. Blabbermouth.
This episode is saved by Bryn. Just Bryn is the quality, as he is in a lot of episodes, but he brings the lols.
Yeah, well, I also really liked in this moment that he's introducing himself to Rudy, because, like, that's unimportant. But he's taking the time to say, I'm Bryn.
Yeah.
She doesn't care. She really doesn't care.
She ought to care, because Bryn is quite the impact on anyone's life. I enjoyed they also listed all the times. Once they figure out he's gone to the driving range, they're like, oh yeah, that's where he always goes when something really bad has upset him.
Yeah.
Like when Pam told him to go on a diet.
Yeah.
Or when football-related instances happened.
Yeah, I zoned out for that. I don't remember any of them.
Yeah, so it was all football apart from diet. I just enjoy that Pam told him to go on a diet. To the driving range!
Yeah. And then back to the girls. And Gwen is offering Nessa Stacey's bedroom.
Stacey, not a fan.
She's out of the room when this is being offered. Gwen, Nessa and Pam are all discussing it. They've got it all worked out. Nessa can move in and Gwen will help her get settled with the baby and everything. And Stacey walks in and is like, what? What's going on? What are you talking about? And she hits the roof.
So tell me again how Stacey's not an entitled brat.
Well, to be fair, it is her bedroom.
She doesn't live there anymore.
Yeah, but this is the first day back off of their honeymoon.
Just out of curiosity, does your mother still have your bedroom made up for you?
No, but that's a very complicated situation.
And are you bitter about it?
No.
Okay, so Stacey's being unreasonable.
Right. She's only just got back of her honeymoon. This is still the first day because they got picked up from the airport, then they went for the meal. This is after the meal. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there should have been some sort of conversation.
There was a conversation, just Stacey wasn't there for it, and it's not her room anymore.
Yeah.
She's being unreasonable, entitled, and insufferable.
I think she's being reasonable, but the tantrum is unnecessary.
Speaking of an unnecessary tantrum, we cut to Smithy at the driving range as the boys arrive.
Yes, no, I love this.
I was really impressed because he whacked a heck of a shot on that golf cart. I wonder how many times they had to do a take to get him hitting a really good golf shot.
Well, Smithy as a character seems to go to the driving range quite a lot.
Which makes sense for the thing, but it also tied in with the script, because obviously Gavin says, oh, you can't hit him like that when it matters.
Yeah.
I wondered how many takes it took before they got that shot.
He might be a golfer.
He might well be, but any golfer...
You're making some judgments here.
No. Any golfer worth their salt knows that when the pressure's on, it's hard. So, especially when you're at a driving range, 50-50 as to whether that was shanked straight into the rough.
Right, you're talking about golf again. I don't know what you're talking about.
I was waiting until you got sick of it.
Smithy apologises. That moment is now. Smithy apologises for his behaviour and says he's not ready to be a dad.
He forgets Nessa's name.
And then I feel like that is actually quite genuine. He's got normal, relatable fears about becoming a parent, especially unexpectedly.
It's a fine example of when Gavin and Stacey gets real.
Yeah.
And a really identifiable. All of a sudden you're like, oh, the laughs have finished and now we're just heartfelt and emotional.
Yeah, and Mick's right there with that as well, offering him supportive words.
Yeah, Mick being a dad to everyone in the most literal sense.
But it was really touching and really supportive. And they sort of come to this conclusion. Smithy's calmer, he's clearly going to go back with them. And then what happens? He spots that Bryn has fast food from the drive-thru. And
it is food that turns him around.
Yeah.
He gets to share the apple pie that Bryn's got.
Yeah, well, he says, did you get me anything? Because
No.
Gavin says he just had some chips. And
Shared
Bryn's
chips.
there with like an armfuls of food. And then he pulls out the apple pie from his pocket and said, I thought we could share it. And then Smithy goes to take a bite and Bryn says, oh, hang on a minute, it'll be hot.
Yeah.
And Smithy really appreciates that moment of tenderness from Bryn.
And I enjoyed the sort of reference to everyone knows that the apple pies at any takeaway are hotter than the sun.
Yeah.
And we cut to Pam and Nessa chatting as Pam does the washing up. And I just felt like everyone's had that vibe, that late evening, everything's settled down, everything feels a bit odd and after the fact, and someone's doing the washing up and you're just sort of having that quiet chat. It's proper vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I know.
And then Stacey comes in to apologise.
Flanked by Gwen, who's obviously given her a talking to.
Yes. Yep.
She also, you say she gives an apology. She doesn't really. Because, I'm sorry I said it's not my home. It isn't really, but... And I'm like, classic Stacey. Love it.
But she says that Nessa can have the room. And then the boys get back.
Did you find him? Is he dead?
And Pam actually does like the Catholic cross across her body, doesn't she? And Mick's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I've seen it on Holby City.
This is such a microcosm of Mick and Pam.
He's like, no, that's if you're a Catholic, you do that. She's like, oh, never knew that.
Anyway. I love that they all crowd in the hallway to talk about Smithy while he's outside. No one moves on. It's all just everyone in the hallway.
Yeah.
Until Gavin, in a super British way, goes, cup of tea.
I
and
know,
everyone's
yeah.
like, yep. That's like the ritual you have to go through to get into the house.
Yeah, well, Gavin goes off to make the tea, but then Mick's like, I think I'm going to get a whiskey. And Pam's like, oh, good idea, I'll have one of those.
As if she hasn't already been downing some. Oh, yeah, that's a good... I wish I'd thought of that.
Yeah. And then we go back to Stacey being upset about her bedroom.
Oh,
and
God,
She's looking for comfort from Gavin.
She's whining to him, and then when he's like, yeah, seems fine, she's like, what? You're supposed to be on my side. Why can't anyone accept my whinging?
But this is a hint of the theme throughout this series, isn't it? Series 2.
I'm remembering why I don't like season 2 as much as the others. Because of Stacey. It's a bit of a downer for a comedy.
I think you said that about series 1.
No.
I think you did.
No. I said I didn't like Stacey.
Right.
But we cut to them all sitting in the sitting room, as you do in a sitting room.
Mm-hmm.
And Smithy comes in. And I think he's got the wrong end of the stick here, isn't he?
Yep.
Because he goes to propose to Nessa, down on one knee and everything.
Yeah.
The group is unimpressed.
Yeah, and Smithy doesn't get it. He's like, I'm a hoot. In fact, before that, he says, I'm a catch. And Bryn goes, he is. and then Smithy's like, I'm a hoot.
Yeah, I'm a hoot. I'm going to describe myself as that way now. I'm Ben. I'm a hoot.
Yeah.
Hoot.
I think it's really whimsical and lovely.
I enjoy that he was like, I don't want to marry that.
I know. I don't like it when he does that.
I know, it's not nice, but it's also kind of part of their back and forth.
Well,
isn't
Nessa comes straight back with, I don't want to marry you either.
No. At least she called him you and not that.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed her tangent about Amsterdam and her ex-partner Jared's death. He died faking his own death, which is the worst way to go.
Yeah. I think before that, doesn't Smithy insult her, like, randomly? And she goes, oh, cheers, Stace. That was over 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah, because he accuses her of doing stuff in Amsterdam as a prostitute.
Yeah.
And obviously that's meant to be just being rude.
Yeah.
And again,
and it turns out.
Sort of an homage to season 1 when they first met.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I did like was that when she's like, I don't want you to have anything to do with the baby. I don't want anything off you. He's like, absolutely not. I will be involved, which is nice.
Yeah.
And a beautiful reference to Fathers for Justice, which is so of the time. All the dads, the single dads that were like dressing up as superheroes and like climbing on roofs and chaining themselves to things. It was a real thing around that time.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Exactly, see?
But it was a really inspiring speech from Smithy about how he wants to be involved.
So inspiring that Bryn claps.
Yes.
And only Bryn.
Yeah, but Smithy appreciates it. He says, cheers, Bryn. Appreciate that.
Because Bryn peters out and looks really like... Ooh.
Really uncomfortable.
And we cut to them all asleep, except Smithy, who is wide awake. And we have all been there at some point. Not necessarily for this exact scenario.
Yeah.
But we've all been wide awake when everyone else is asleep. And just going, I can't stop thinking about whatever.
Yeah. I thought this was quite a nice moment because we had some tinkly music as well, and we were sort of seeing each pair or each individual person asleep, and like you say, Smithy awake, and it was, I thought, quite a nice transition between the chaos of that first day and then the calmer second day.
Yes, the next day is sort of calm, I suppose.
But we have a whole new hilarious thing.
I enjoy the humongous fry-up that Pam is getting out.
Yeah, and she's sneaking a sausage.
What are you doing?
Mick calls her out, doesn't he? And then when others arrive, I think it's Nessa and Gwen come into the room, she throws it over her shoulder like she was eating nothing.
But I'm sure when she's at the table, she's eating normal sausages and hoping they don't notice.
Well, that is it, yeah, because Gwen asks if she can try one of the special sausages, and then we see a look from her that indicates they are not special vegetarian sausages, they are normal sausages.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny. But yeah, there's this whole thing of them talking about
the power shower.
Oh, yeah, Bryn loves the power shower. 26 minutes he was in that thing.
I know. Another one of Bryn's absolutely enthralling discussions about something so mundane. But
Childlike wonder.
Childlike wonder, yeah, that's it.
If someone came to visit our house and told me they'd used our power shower for 26 minutes, I'd be sending them a bill.
I know, yeah. Stop using all the water.
Oh my god, we are so miserable.
And then we see Gavin and Stacey in bed, waking up, and they talk about morning breath. More normal.
There was a lot of garlic
things.
in that garlic bread.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, we leave them there. Back to the table.
Yes.
This is when Pam pretends the sausages are veggie and Gwen tries one.
As Bryn is explaining at length about peanut butter and jelly.
I know. Oh, what was hilarious about this is that he's got an American friend. And so he does an American accent. Now, Rob Brydon is the king of mimicking people and their voices. And he does a really awful American accent.
Because that sounded like it was an Indian accent to me.
Yes, or Pakistani, something like that. And really bad, not American at all. But he says his friend will get a real kick out of this, knowing that Bryn's having peanut butter and jelly.
I love that his rambles always go on too long. And I love that this one started with, and I'll tell you for why.
Yes.
That is never a good sign. Anyone says that, you're like, oh, settle in, you're in for the long haul.
Yeah. And then Smithy comes in. And he doesn't really want too much breakfast, but he'll just have a couple of sausages and about 3 bits of bacon and just 1 egg. He's not really that hungry.
It is a bit like in season 1 where with the steaks. And he's like, well, I'll have 2 because, I have already had a fry-up. Shepherd's pie, that's what he'd had.
Yeah.
But it all gets very tense because there's noises coming from upstairs.
Yeah, we
a
start
rhythmic
hearing...
thumping.
Yeah, start hearing that banging.
And everyone slowly starts to realise what's up.
Yep, and then the banging gets faster.
The literal banging.
Yes.
And they start trying to loudly talk over it, and then the conversation...
Talking about the weather.
Which peters out really quickly, and then it gets really awkward until Gwen says, oh, let's have the radio on.
Yeah.
Which goes really well until Pam starts singing along to the song, which has some really unfortunate lyrics for the context.
Yep. Don't forget her dancing.
The dancing. And she's committed at that point as well. So she's got that look of going, I've started, so I have to keep going.
Yep. And then we hear it all end. No more banging.
And everyone's relieved.
And then Gavin appears.
And everyone, including Pam, glares at him.
Yeah.
Pam looks so angry.
Yeah. And he sits down at the table, starts buttering some toast, casually says, oh, Stacey's just jumping in the shower. Then he realises that no one's talking and everyone's staring at him, and he just goes, what?
And then cut.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And we get to see Mick from inside the lorry, Mick opening the lorry, and we see all of Stacey's stuff.
Yes.
And that is quite the 90s haul.
What I loved about this is that they mention the giraffe, and from Gwen's angle that we then see, you can't see it, and the camera pans round exactly as Pam would have done, and you see the reveal of this giant giraffe.
In a pink cowgirl hat.
Yeah.
It is the best giraffe reveal I've ever seen on telly.
Yeah.
And in shock news, Stacey is still a pain in the arse about everything. She has a tantrum at Gwen again.
But Gwen says there's no space at home to take it back.
Because I've binned you off, because I'm glad to be rid of you.
Well, Bryn's decorated the room.
So it does support that they've already done this ahead
true.
of time and everything.
Yeah.
But Mick, once again, is the voice of reason.
Yes, he is. I wrote that exact thing.
Yeah,
Mick equals voice of reason.
And so they cut to Smithy getting dressed as Nessa bursts in on him with his top off.
Yeah, I thought this showed sort of the beginnings of co-parenting for them.
Yeah, it did.
Because it was quite a nice grown-up moment.
Yeah, because she tells him about the scan, not with the intention of him coming, but they end up with him going, look, I'm not going to be a dickhead about it. I'll give you money and I want to come to all the stuff.
Yeah.
And they shake on it, tidy,
and
shoot off.
that's that.
Very them.
Yeah, short, concise, to the point, effective.
And I like that he does, like, throughout everything, the one thing, he is always present in his son's life and everything. And I think that that's a really nice thing, because it would have been so easy to write Smithy as an absentee father or Nessa as... But they are both dedicated.
What I always find interesting about this is obviously the show came together with Gavin and Stacey and them getting married, and then actually Nessa and Smithy having a baby offers much more permanence than the marriage does.
In many ways, Gavin and Stacey are the most boring relationship in the whole show.
No, absolutely.
They are, and it's not just because 50% of it is Stacey. But we then see that Stacey has indeed sifted her stuff and has put one used foot spa for the charity shop.
And then Mick goes, would you buy a second-hand foot spa?
No, I would not. That is grim. Oh, we'll just chuck it then.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, good old Stacey. Lovely times. But Nessa decides she's going to hit the road
Yes.
because she's gonna see Eddie Stobart and the gang at the Trucker Cat.
That's right. That's when they get
Trucker
brought
Cafe.
up. Yeah.
And she says goodbye to everyone in each unique individual way,
Yes.
which I don't think Pam enjoys.
She is fuming because Nessa kisses Mick quite passionately.
She also gives Mick a proper, we'll talk about this later look.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she gives a high five to Nessa.
To Pam.
Well,
Nessa.
They high five each other.
Well, Pam does so reluctantly.
Well, yeah. It takes two to high five.
Then she gets Gav to boost her up to the cab.
And I was not expecting the boost up. I was expecting him to sort of like cup his hands so that she could climb up on his hands with her foot. I wasn't expecting him to grab a cheek with each hand and shove.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, fair enough. But yeah, and then...
These goodbyes are quite hard for Stacey, though.
Not as hard as they are for Bryn. Bryn, like, sucks in a smell of Gavin and then goes, I'm going to miss this. And Gavin's like, miss what?
Yeah.
And he runs, don't worry. And then he goes to say, no tears to Stacey. And she just says, I love you. And he runs off crying.
Yeah. Yeah. Bless her.
Poor old Bryn. He's just too innocent for this world.
Poor old Stacey.
No, not poor Stacey.
She's losing all her family.
It seems like they're glad to be rid of her.
Aww.
It's all right. I'm sure she won't engineer getting her back to Barry as soon as humanly possible and get her own way for the rest of her life.
I actually think Gavin was far better placed to move than Stacey was. He was much more of a secure person.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
So basically, because of her flaws, it was better to pander to her.
Hey, everyone is flawed.
Especially Stacey.
Oh my God.
Anyway, is it wrong that I kind of want a light sky blue Picasso now?
Well, they do look like quite useful cars.
They do, especially if you only drive them at 35 miles an hour at all times.
They were so popular, though, weren't they? Everyone seemed to have a Picasso back then.
Yeah. I enjoyed... There's a couple of references to omelettes in this episode, and I enjoyed them.
Yeah.
Because Gwen says, now, you can't make an omelette without breaking some eggs to reassure Stacey.
Telling her about starting her own family and going her own way.
Yeah. Which, of course, she steadfastly refuses to do, but moving on.
Then we cut to James Blunt in the car. Goodbye, my lover.
Goodbye, my friend.
Bryn is singing along and Gwen is unimpressed.
She wants something a bit more uplifting.
Yes.
But this is the closest I think we ever see to Bryn just being rude, because he just glares at her.
I know, yeah.
Outrageous, do not ruin James Blunt for
This
me.
is clearly his car album.
Nessa radios with some traffic warnings. You think it's going to be something important. It's really not.
No.
It's a bit odd. It feels like padding, but I'm sure it's just character. It's like, oh, look, so mundanity.
Well, it broke the tension, didn't it?
That's
between
true.
Bryn and Gwen. And then she ends her radio call with 10-4. Tidy.
And then we get to hear Bryn singing Wise Men by James Blunt and Gwen complaining it doesn't make any sense, which it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then Bryn glares at her and continues to sing.
With passion.
Oh, yes. He loves a bit of the Blunt.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the final scene of the episode.
Yeah.
Stacey in her bedroom.
Well, it's in Gavin's bedroom.
It's their bedroom.
It's Gavin's bedroom.
Looking sad and insufferable as she asks for an omelette for dinner.
Oh, I do feel sorry for her. This is a lot of change.
I just wrote down, Stacey being a massive downer begins.
Oh. You.
With my facts.
Right. What are you going to rate this episode then?
We're going to be different on this one.
Okay.
I've ranked this 4 funky giraffes out of 7.
Right.
It was okay. Bryn saved it from being lower.
Yes.
Without Bryn, this is a 1-er.
Yeah.
He's knocked it up 3 points just by being hilariously quaint.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it reminded me of how much of a slog some of this season can be.
I do think it relies quite heavily on other people breaking up the drama that goes on between Gavin and Stacey. I've given it a 9 out of 10.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, but I have made notes all on Bryn. Like, he was on top form. He saved it exactly as you
So
said.
are we basically saying that Bryn is the saving force, and just how much you love Bryn and Rob Brydon's character defines that, and how much... I think it's just we had the same opinion. I just got dragged down by Stacey more than you did.
Maybe. I did say there weren't too many tantrums, and that includes Smithy as well as Stacey. It was quite a sentimental episode, and I think that sort of made the funny bits even funnier. Like, I feel like it was quite well balanced.
Yeah, that's true. And also, last episode you were saying that you were getting a bit tired of Smithy's tantrums,
Yes.
and 50% of this episode was centered around his tantrums. So.
Well, yeah.
But he did come round to it
Yes.
a lot better, and he sort of redeemed himself a
That
bit.
was the difference, because then by the time we saw him again, he was apologising and moving forward.
Whereas Stacey is irredeemable, and so...
Well, she's at the beginning of her tantrum, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It lasts 5 more episodes.
Yeah. I feel like the average of my scores might be set to downturn for a bit.
Oh dear.
But I'm sure there'll be lots of fun in there, because we get a lot of Bryn for the win.
Bryn for the win?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Brinner chicken dinner? No,
No.
it doesn't work.
No.
Bryn for the win.
Yeah.
It's no sin.
Anyway.
And this episode is Finn.
Oh, God.
And that is all, folks. Don't forget to rate and review us on your podcast service of choice.
Yes, that would really mean a lot to us.
Ideally 5 stars. We don't want any of them not 5 stars. That would be mean.
Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Toodles!